Welcome back everyone to the channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about the top 5 things I don't like about my CLA45 AMG 2020. If you haven't watched the previous video on the top 5 things I do like, you can watch it up here in the corner. It was actually kind of hard to pick out the 5 things I don't like about this car because I do like a lot of things on this car, but there are things that should have not been overlooked by Mercedes when producing this car. We're going to go over them right now, starting with the first one, which is the sound of this car. So when it comes to being a car enthusiast, one of the most important things when purchasing a car is what does it sound like. The CLA45 AMG really does not sound that good, especially compared to the competitors in its range like the M2 and the RS3. Those cars I think sound substantially much better than this car. The reasoning why this car doesn't sound that good is because the OPF filters, the downpipe constricts it a lot. So in order to get a better sound, the best method is to just get a catless downpipe or a 200 cell downpipe to help fix the sound. But even then, it doesn't really sound that amazing. I'm gonna go over the different modes: comfort, sport, sport plus, and race. Give it a few revs so you guys can hear exactly what it sounds like and why I don't like the sound of this car. So as you heard, in Sport Plus and race mode, it does sound a little bit better, has a little bit more burbles and pops. That's because the second valve opens up so you get the full exhaust sound. But still, compared to the RS3 and M2, this car does not sound as good as those cars. And it's kind of disappointing because I love having cars that sound loud. That's why I had a C63S before. But now this car, it isn't there. I am looking at an aftermarket exhaust to put on it because I think it's going to make it sound a lot better. So I'll be doing a video on that if I do end up buying one. But you can see that this car does not sound as good as it did the previous generation, because the previous generation actually sounds a lot better than this car. And it's kind of sad because this car is so much fun, but it just lacks in sound. So one thing to note about the sound is that there's actually fake exhaust noise being pumped into the cabin. I think it sounds a little corny. They said that they put a mic in the engine bay and that's where it gets the sound from, but you never know. It could just be a doctored noise that's just software based, but they said there is a mic, so it might be. I'm not really a big fan of fake noise being pumped into speakers, but there's no way to deactivate it, unfortunately. So I know this is a weird angle, but the second thing that I don't like about this car is actually related to the sound system inside the car. In all honesty, this is probably one of the worst sound systems I've ever heard in a car. I used to have a Mazda 3, and the Mazda 3 actually sounds better than this sound system. So there's no proper way to explain how this sounds without you guys actually being inside the car, because there's just no way of showing that over a microphone. But I thought I'd show you the menu where you can adjust the levels in the system to different things as much as you change the settings, which I've had one of my friends who's really good with audio change the settings around to get a perfect dynamic as good as he can with this system. It still just does not sound good. And this is the actually upgraded Burmeister option that they have. So this isn't the base levels option in this car, it's actually the upgraded one. So I can't imagine what the lower grade one sounds. It's probably completely awful. And I've tested it in a 2020 C-Class and a 2020 GLS, and I've had the same issue that the sound system just does not sound good. I think only the upper models like the C63S, E63, and those have better sound systems. Where these little entry-level cars, it isn't good. And it's the second thing that I don't like about this car, because I love listening to music on the road trips, and to have a disappointing sound system is just, it sucks. The third thing that I don't like about this car is related to the interior again, and that is the seats. The seats in this car are just not as good as the other base seats in different Mercedes models. The C63S performance seats, which I had before this car, I think are way more comfortable than these seats, and that's just disappointing because these are the base comfort seats. They should be more comfortable than a track focus seat. I think these are worse in my opinion. There's not really that many adjustments, and you can't really get a good setting. I'm about 5'11", and I just couldn't get anywhere near as good as a setting that I did on my C63S, which had the performance seats. Now, the performance seats are an option in this car, so you can opt for them, and I would highly suggest getting those over these seats. But unfortunately for me, I picked up this car in the lot, and this car didn't have them, so I kind of had to stick with the basic seats, and I just don't like them. And I'm not sure why they didn't change it up, because these are the same seats from the previous model and people had issues with them beforehand. The other thing about them is that when it's cold out, the back spring actually squeaks, which I'm gonna have to get checked out at the dealer to get fixed, because it's really annoying when you're sitting in the seat and it squeaks and you're like, this is a brand new car with less than 5,000 miles. Why is the seat squeaking? So the fourth thing that I don't like about this car is quality. Now, the biggest issue with this car is that it shares the base platform with the CLA base car. That car, even the previous generation, had numerous amount of issues, especially regarding to quality. And I think that has carried over a little bit over into the new model year update, because the 2020 CLA45 so far has had, you know, a little bit of quality issues on my part. I haven't really looked it up that much if it's a recurring issue, but the things that I have searched have come up on Google quite a few times, like the chair squeaking, different parts rattling, like the doors. That's the biggest issue, is that the front doors, the driver and the passenger, actually rattle every now and then, and I think it's because plastic is rubbing it up against the door. It's stuff that should not have passed quality control at Mercedes to allow it to be released like this. I know all new cars have quality issues. That's just a thing with new models, and I understand that, but there are some things where Mercedes should be like, you know what, let's fix this before it goes out, because it isn't right. CLA45 is not a cheap car by any means, so to have these quality issues is very disappointing. And like I said, it's the door issues, my Bluetooth not working, things that I pointed out in my other video about the issues about this car so far, and I'm hoping these issues don't reoccur and I don't get any newer ones, but I'm worried down the line that there are going to be a lot more issues that are going to become apparent, and it's going to be annoying. The fifth thing that I don't like about this car out of the top 5 is probably the lack of features. So this car around MSRP is, you know, 70 to 75,000 depending on options if you fully load it. This is pretty loaded car, and the thing that annoys me the most is that this is a Mercedes. It costs about $70,000 approximately, but it doesn't have any parking sensors. If you look, there's no sensors in the back. Rear bumper, there's no parking sensors. So yes, it does come with a rear view camera that pops out at the trunk handle, but there's no sensors, and it makes no sense, because there's cars like a 2012 Ford Escape or whatever, a $30,000-$40,000 car has parking sensors all around, but this $70,000 2020 Mercedes doesn't have parking sensors. It just makes no sense, and I think that's related because they sell it as a package. So you can get the parking assist package where you get the 3D camera, so you get cameras on the mirror in the front and obviously the back, and then you get the sensors so you can see where you're parking front and rear. But come on, like, you should have at least put the rear parking sensors on this car, because you're paying that much. Why do you need a package for rear parking sensors? Almost every car, every 2020 car comes with sensors, and I know it's German. What are you gonna do? You pay for what you get, and that's a fact. The other thing about the lack of features is the trunk. So if I go over here and if I swipe here, should work. Nope. So this has a foot swipe option. So when you swipe your foot, the trunk actually opens. So let's say it opens, right? It has a sensor underneath to allow your foot to kick open the trunk if you have your hands full. But the one thing that it doesn't have is it doesn't have a button to close the trunk. So it has this pretty new feature that not a lot of cars have at all, but it doesn't have a button. And you can see where a button would be is right here. And I think that's because they reused that liner for other models in the range, but like, you couldn't have really put that button. Why put that there as standard, but not put a button to close the trunk? I know it's a minor gripe, but come on, like, you have to pull this down. It looks cheap. It doesn't feel like a $70,000 car when you don't have those features, when cars that are like $20,000, $30,000 have more features than this car. and at half the cost. So guys, that about wraps it up for the top 5 things I don't like about my 2020 CLA45 AMG. Thank you again for watching today's video and any other of my videos on my channel about this car. I wanted to give a quick update regarding 2021 goals. So in 2021, I plan on expanding this channel, doing videos, reviews, and top 5 things on other cars, not just the CLA45, hopefully other Mercedes, other Audis, Porsches, things like that. So I hope you guys join me on that adventure. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel because there's much more fire content coming very soon. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday for the next upload.